Who will conduct the hearing? Go ahead.
Marilyn Miller.
Robbie Robinson. Phil Zallinger, Vice Chair.
Mark, introduce
Mark
yourself.
Nicholson. Yeah,
And
Mark
Tim.
Nicholson, board member.
Yeah.
Good morning.
And-
Good morning, Tim Pudvar.
All right, and with that, Phil will take over the meeting.
All right, thanks. We're going to commence the hearing of the contested matter known as Transportation Board docket number 518, Winick et al. It's on remand from the Vermont Supreme Court to the Transportation Board pursuant to a Supreme Court decision issued last spring. Before we proceed, Mr. McFarland. Mr. McFarlane.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, you seem to be the only plaintiff in attendance.
I understand there will be others. I'm not sure why they're not on yet, but I would expect them momentarily.
Mr. Winick.
I see. Well, there's evidence that Mr. Winick is on, but we haven't heard from him. There's neither a picture nor sound.
I can't explain the technical glitches, but so you show Mr. Winick is present, but you can't see or hear him. Is that what you're saying?
I think that those are pretty much the words I used. He's a blank screen with his name on the wall.
Okay.
Let me try and speak if you can hear me. I'm not seeing any of the video, but perhaps you can hear me.
That's Mr. Winick.
Who is speaking? Was that Mr. Winick speaking? Mr. McFarlane.
Yes, I clearly heard Mr. Winick speaking. He may be having, or is obviously having, some technical difficulties.
I see. Do you have any knowledge about Mr. Govin or Mr. Sims?
I understand that all will be joining us this morning. I'm surprised everybody's not.
Do you understand they're all going to be in attendance by remote connection?
I spoke a few minutes ago just to try and see if you could hear me. I'm not seeing any video either.
Scott, I'm not sure how you connected, but it may make sense for you to dial in like I did. I'm challenged by all the video conferencing, so I'm in on a dial in. Maybe that would be best for you as well. I imagine others are having difficulty with the GoToMeeting or whatever the other system is. It doesn't work for me either.
Mr. Winick, can you hear me? This is Rachel.
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay. Can you hear as everyone is speaking, Mr. Winick?
Yes, I think I can hear everybody that's speaking. I'm going to, perhaps it would be best if I dialed in just by phone instead of trying to do this video, which doesn't seem to be working at our end remotely. Is that all right? I'll just dial in the phone number.
If you dial in by the phone, I don't believe you can see documents that may be on display here in the hearing.
Okay, in that case, I'll try a little bit more to get some system to be able to show the video. I see, for me, also just a blurred screen, although I see the names and the screens of all the other people, but there's no content in the video. I just see their initials and, as you said, a blurred screen for me with my name there. So I'll try a little bit harder and see if I can figure out what to get that working so I can see the materials that you're presenting.
Mr. Winick, let me ask you a question. Do I understand that none of the plaintiffs plan to be here in attendance in person?
That's correct.
Did anyone advise Rachel that you were not going to be in attendance?
I know that Steve Grimsley did, and I know that I had said in the past it was going to be challenging for me, and it turned out to be more than challenging. It's impossible. Bruce, I'm not sure if you advised them, but I didn't do anything on your behalf.
I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a pilot. I believe I'm in attendance at this moment. I didn't know that my physical presence was required in Montpelier. That's not possible for me today either. As I understand it, others are also traveling today. We live other lives besides around the airport.
Very well. Mr. Winick, are you going to continue? Mr. McFarlane, can you see documentation from the hearing?
No, Mr. Chair, I am on a telephone connection. My video connection doesn't work. I have internet issues, so my sole attendance today will only be verbal, and I'll be able to hear and also speak. I thought that would be sufficient for today. I didn't realize that one must see documents being presented.
Right. Well, nothing will be reviewed today that was not presented to you in advance. And there's a distinction between providing the board with notice of the means through which you were going to participate and the requirements of participation. You needn't be here to participate, but it would have facilitated our preparation had we known the means through which you were going to participate. In other words, we didn't know until 5 after 10 today that there would be no plaintiffs in attendance. So we're going to have to rely upon this electronic process throughout today's hearing, which we probably could have used some preparatory exercises had we known that. But your presence isn't necessary, and it doesn't affect in any way the outcome of this matter. So, do we know about Sims and Govin?
Again, if you're asking me, Bruce McFarlane.
I do believe that I'm going to.
Go ahead, Scott.
Go ahead, Bruce.
I was under the understanding that they would be present today, also remotely. I think they're also traveling.
If I may, Dan Gavin did make notice at the pretrial conference that he was going to be traveling. I thought he was going to be appearing remotely, but he was not going to be here in person.
So I just heard from Dan. He says he can't find the link. I'll try and send him the link, and perhaps he'll try and join us remotely.
And Tim.
Okay.
I remember.
Well, it's almost 10:10. I think we're going to get underway, and we'll start with the administrative matters first. So anyone who's going to present testimony today, other than members of the bar, and I guess that would include Mr. Dolgan, Mr. Winick, Mr. McFarlane,
Trini Broussard.
Ms. Broussard.
No.
The state is not calling Mr. Evan Robinson today.
It doesn't say Mr. Robinson. In any event, so I'm going to ask anyone who's going to offer evidence today to raise their right hands. Do you solemnly swear the evidence you're about to give on the matter under consideration is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone
Yes.
affirms that they, yes.
I don't know. We can't see him, so.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes, sir,
yes. Did you swear to that oath?
I did.
Thank you. All right, and I'm going to remind you that as Sims or Galvin appear, each of them will be asked to swear in before they participate. Thank you. So we have discussed amongst ourselves the proper order of proceeding here. Normally, plaintiffs would be required to go forward first in contested matters such as this. But under the circumstances of the remand from the Vermont Supreme Court, the burden of going forward was imposed upon V-Trans. All people. Excuse me. Burden of going forward with the evidence. And so we're going to ask V-Trans to take first steps. Please introduce yourselves as we go along.
Absolutely. In regards to preliminary issues, I do, well, for starters, Jeff Sokolic, Assistant Attorney General and Counsel for Vermont Agency of Transportation here. Really appreciate the PUC hearing process guidebook the board provided, as well as the pretrial conference to clear up some issues. But there's two just quick procedural questions that did pop up in reviewing those. Just wondering if will the parties be given an opportunity to provide opening and closing statements here? AOT feels that the testimony and briefing largely captures our arguments, but the guidebook doesn't seem to address either of those. So I didn't know if that was part of the process today.
We'd leave it to the parties. If you care to have an open and close, that's fine.
Just mainly wondering in regards to process, is whether plaintiff's opening statements and closing would be treated as testimony. I see they're sworn in. But when pro se, then just wondering how to approach that in terms of cross-examinations of that, or if that should be left alone. Just wondering. So if opening and closing arguments would be treated as testimony, if AOT would have an opportunity to cross-examine the plaintiffs if necessary with impeachment evidence or other documents, something just to counter arguments and ability to respond to testimony.
Yes, you can reserve that right.
Just a administrative pause. Mr. Govin, are you here? I see Dan has come
Yes,
into.
Yes, I'm on.
Mr. Garvin, this is the vice chair and chair of the hearing. I'm going to administer an oath to you. Please raise your right hand. Is it raised?
It is.
Do you solemnly swear the evidence you're about to give on the matter under consideration is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please continue.
One other preliminary matter in terms of AOT was also under the impression that plaintiffs were going to be here in person today. We provided physical copies for potential cross-examination and reference to physical exhibits. The sharing of exhibits for their reference, just don't know if there's thought on how to. They have the physical. If we could just confirm that plaintiffs have access to the exhibits that were served previously electronically in this case, it would be just helpful to know how to approach this.
This is Bruce
Mr. Winick,
McFarlane.
do you have copies of the exhibits that were provided electronically?
I think so. I will have to, I think I do. Stand by, yeah. Let's, for the sake of argument, say that I do have them.
I'm afraid that this is a contested hearing, Mr. Winick. And so if we're going to adjudicate the rights of parties, one of the fundamental premises of this entire process is full and complete disclosure and transparency, and the opportunity of those whose rights are going to be affected to have access to all the information that comes before the tribunal. This is fundamental to the process. The electronic participation stretches this to its limits, but it doesn't forego the responsibility of those participating to take the time and expend the effort necessary to prepare for a hearing that's going to adjudicate their rights. In this case, that might have been reviewing the record of all the materials that they've received in the course of the run-up to today's hearing, as we have all done, to ensure and be aware that they have in hand all of their materials. And this goes for Mr. Sims, Mr. Govan, and Mr. McFarlane.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
this is Bruce McFarlane.
who's speaking? Yes,
Yes, Bruce McFarlane. I have received everything that Rachel, your executive secretary, has forwarded along. And of course, the administrative record is a snowstorm of documents of over 11,000. I'm familiar with much of it, but it's almost impossible to be familiar with all of it. But key points are certainly, I think, familiar to all of us at the airport. And I'd like to add that I also have sort of an opening statement that I'd like to make if and when appropriate. And Mr. Chairman, I ask your patience. As you know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a pilot. I'm retired. And so if I stray off the runway in any direction, I know you'll bring it to my attention. This is a new experience for me. Thank you for.
certainly. I'm not expecting Perry Mason to walk through that door. So I'm no Perry Mason myself, as a matter of fact, because I'm dating myself by using Perry Mason references. But thank you for that. We're going to relax the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure as required and provided under the tenets of administrative law. So not to worry about form and let's worry about the content, not the format. Mr. Govan,
Yes,
questions
I
outstanding
do
for
have the
you?
evidence. I do have all the evidence, yes, as well.
Very good. Thank you. And Mr. Winick?
Yes,
All right, so we have evidence in the record that all three of the participating plaintiffs do have the materials that V-Trans has provided.
no, I need to correct you. You called my name and I said, yes, I do not have the full range of all the material with me today. So I was going to rely on being able to see what was presented. Unfortunately, the video portion of this isn't working. So that's going to be a bit of a hole, but I can rely on my colleagues who do. And I was, as Bruce McFarlane said, familiar with virtually everything that was submitted and presented in the administrative record. So I'm fairly comfortable with that. I know you've got limits as far as what has to be in place and what doesn't, but that's the situation we have now. I also would like to make an opening statement if and when it's appropriate.
Thank you. But let's get over this evidentiary obstacle now.
I think it would be helpful to note, AOT only intends to reference the notice to exhibits, so the full administrative record, only the exhibits to that were in the exhibited witness list, which was submitted in the past couple of months here. So we're not looking to go into the full historical record here of discussion, but only the ones that were noticed for this hearing.
Right. You said they were served on May 1st.
Yeah, for the record, on May 1st, AOT sent out Trini Broussard's pre-filed testimony and the exhibits to all of the plaintiffs I see on the mailing list. And then on May 8th, AOT sent out Steve Dolgen. I'm not sure how, pre-filed testimony and all of the exhibits. And I note that all of the emails for the plaintiffs are included in that email from AOT.
Right. And Mr. Winick, just to differentiate between whether you have them in your possession and whether you've received them are two different issues. I'm not asking, there's no affirmative obligation. The process doesn't require you to have them in your presence or in your possession at the time of the hearing, but it does require, or is based upon the fact that you received them at some point in time and had the opportunity to review them. And you can confirm that you did receive all these, the matters that were served to you this month?
Yes, that's a much different question, and I can confirm that, and I can also confirm that I can review all those materials as well. I just don't have them with me at the moment today. So that's the situation exactly as you described it.
So
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. The agency appreciates the board's time and efforts here in conducting this hearing. Previously in this matter, the Vermont Supreme Court already resolved several important issues in this case. The current remand before the board focuses on two issues as AOT sees it. One, whether the evidentiary record adequately explains how AOT arrived at the 2019 lease rates. And second, whether those resulting rates were fair under 19 VSA 5 subsection D6. AOT's evidence today will demonstrate several things clearly. First, that the rates had not been meaningfully adjusted since 2008, when the 2019 adjustments went into place. During that same period, airport maintenance and operating costs, infrastructure investments, and market conditions changed substantially. The updated rates were reached by accounting for all those changes. Second, prior to implementation of the 2019 rates, AOT took its evaluation of those permissible considerations, CPIU trends, comparable airport rates, land values, airport-specific infrastructure, and airport operating and maintenance costs, and discussed them with the Vermont Aviation Advisory Council, or the VAC, which is an assembly of stakeholders from across the state in the aviation world. The VAC voted to approve those proposals before they were implemented. Third, in terms of fairness, shortly after implementation, in an attempt to address concerns of certain hangar leaseholders across the state, including plaintiffs, the VAC created a subcommittee to provide an independent look at the methodology that AOT used and weighed potential alternative methodologies and looked at the factors, ultimately concluding that the rates were reasonable and alternative proposed methodologies would yield rates very similar or even higher than the ones that AOT implemented. We have submitted pre-filed testimony from Trini Broussard, an agency employee who worked on the rate review process. I believe this testimony best explains AOT's methodology and the factors considered during the 2018-2019 process. We've also submitted pre-filed testimony from VAC member Steve Dolgen concerning the VAC review process and the later stakeholder subcommittee discussions to provide the board with an adequate lens to look at and interpret and decide what fairness actually is. Both Trini Broussard and Steve Dolgen are available today if the board or the plaintiffs have any follow-up questions for them. At the conclusion of the hearing, AOT will respectfully request that the board conclude that the evidentiary record is now sufficiently explains AOT's methodology and demonstrates that the resulting lease rates were fair under 19 VSA 5D6. Thank you.
thank you. Gentlemen, your opening comments, statements. Just identify yourself before you speak, please.
Okay, this is Scott Winick speaking. Thank you for all of your efforts to get this hearing underway and in some form complete. So we all thank you, even the members of the plaintiff group that were unable to attend today. I know they appreciate the opportunity. This morning, I'd like to try something constructive, perhaps even brief, which will please everybody. As Mr. Zallinger said about a week ago or so at the pre-hearing meeting, hope springs eternal. And in that spirit, we'll move ahead and keep this opening statement brief. Given enough bites of the apple, or in airplane terms, go-arounds, as we would call them as pilots, we hangar owners are confident that AOT can land on the numbers. The question is, what number? And that's the question of the rate. At this point, 7 years forward from the imposition of that 25 cents a square foot at Northeast Kingdom International, 25 cents a square foot might be the right number. As a reference point for the other members of the board with whom I haven't spoken, I've only spoken to Mr. Zallinger so far, you should understand that the system is admittedly unsustainable. It's so unsustainable and unwieldy that AOT is still to this day, granting leases at the same value 7 years later. That's an important point. That means the system they're trying to implement is essentially static until somebody disrupts it. And that's why we're here today. So AOT is still granting leases at that value, setting up all the new hangar owners across the state for the same rude awakening that we had regarding fairness that started this matter in 2019. Recall, if you will, that the Supreme Court agreed with AOT that as far as the placement of commas and the periods in the contract, the lease agreement, they may be allowed to claw back money from the past. But even the court understood that it was not fair. And of course, AOT didn't show their work, and that's a big portion of why we're here today. So now we're back for the umpteenth go-around. Not a good look for pilots, by the way. How many go-rounds does it take to land this plane on the numbers? If the fairness construct had been implemented 7 years ago, along with a show your work approach that Vermonters could normally work together to achieve, we suggested this in numerous settlement offers, we wouldn't be here today in this more formal arrangement. So let's take this opportunity, if we can, today, and perhaps short circuit a great deal of this by admitting the problem, fixing it, or at least pledging to fix the problem, and move on. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter, and I defer now to Bruce McFarland, who also had an opening statement he'd like to make.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Chairman, may I proceed? This is Bruce McFarlane speaking.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. I sort of have a pre-opening statement that I, again, not being a lawyer, just sort of more informally, and I will attempt to be brief. I'm not always able to do that. But I just wanted to say that I believe it's very important that the board understands that this 2019 rate increase did not happen in a vacuum. The 10-year period prior to this increase was particularly troubling, a very troubling time for VTrans and its relationship to the state aviation community and state airports. Fortunately, VTrans, since 2019, has made positive airport management changes, very positive. There's some new young blood, some aviators, pilots, and VTrans is on the right road. And Scott, you've got some great ideas there. But this matter that we're dealing with today is really the result of the previous dark period in VTrans history. And having been around for 50 years at the Newport, now Northeast Kingdom Airport, I can tell you I know the history, and I know VTrans history with regard to it. So it's part of my official opening statement. We're here today because Vermont Supreme Court sent this case back with a strict, non-negotiable instruction. VTrans must prove its math. For years, VTrans has treated the ground lease of rural airport tenants as an unchecked revenue stream, doubling rent from 12 to 25 cents per square foot overnight based on nothing more than a finger in the wind. By the way, that same finger seems to have waived my 9 cents per square foot base rate, not the 12 cents that most people have at the airport. I have a 160.2% increase, whereas everyone else at the airport has a 108, which has been the number being thrown around. My situation is unique. I won't get into that today. It's not what we're here for, perhaps another time, but I'm the most impacted by this action by the state. The lease agreement is a contract. It's not a blank check. It binds rate adjustments strictly to verifiable local CPI, itemized local maintenance, and unimproved local dirt value. We will demonstrate that VTrans has failed to present a transparent, localized algorithm for any of these factors. Because VTrans cannot show its algebraic work, the board must reject the 108% increase. And of course, as a reminder, in my case, 160% increase. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. One more preliminary matter. On February 14th, the petitioners submitted a memo and on remand with exhibits. Do you ask to have those items entered into evidence at today's hearing? This is just a formality. We expect that you filed it with the intention of it becoming your position, your collective position at this hearing. But now that we're in a formal hearing, it's necessary to identify for the record that you did file it and you do wish it to become evidence for the board to consider.
Yes, thank you very much.
Since there's two, I'm not sure how to proceed with 5 plaintiffs, one of whom has waived his right to appear. 2 of you are appearing electronically, and 3 of you, I'm sorry. Mr. Govin, you're still here?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Do you have an opening statement?
No, well, that's pretty much well said with Scott and Bruce. They can, that like pretty much is my same feeling as well.
All right. So we have 3 of 5 plaintiffs participating by remote connection. 2 opening statements, an affirmation from Mr. Govin. Mr. Sims is among the missing. Do you all concur that you want that filing to be considered evidence by the board? Just say your name and tell me how you respond to that question.
Bruce McFarlane, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Exactly, could you just help detail the filing so I understand what it is?
Rachel?
On February 14th, 2026, the plaintiffs filed a memo on remand. Included in that were a number of exhibits, including memos to the Supreme Court, the appellant and appellee's brief, the appellant's brief, the appellant's reply brief, the final opinion of the Supreme Court, and the oral argument at the Supreme Court, and a link to the video of the oral arguments at the Supreme Court.
I have.
If I could jump in and I'll just let me help the other 2 plaintiffs here. There was nothing created other than what was already in the record that I provided to the board in that letter. So there's really nothing, I don't think you'd see anything that you haven't already seen before. Thank you, Rachel, for outlining what was included in that.
Just for the record, I'd like each of you to state your name and if you wish to have these materials entered into the record and considered as evidence for the plaintiffs by saying yes.
Bruce McFarlane, yes.
Scott Winick, yes.
Dan Galvin, yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, I think we've addressed the preliminary administrative matters. And although they're administrative, believe me that these go to the fundamentals of due process. And so they are intrinsic to the entire activity. I'm going to now turn to V-Trans and ask V-Trans to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on AOT has no objection to the admission of those exhibits, so we remain silent on that fact. AOT would like to call its first witness, Steve Dolgan, who is appearing remotely.
Good morning, Mr. Dolgan.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
If you said something additionally, we might be able to determine that, but
Yeah.
hello doesn't.
Can you hear me
Where
okay?
are you speaking from?
My home, St. Johnsbury.
All right, so
You should be able to hear me.
yes,
Okay, good.
loud and clear.
Thank you, Mr. Dolgan. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great. This is Jeff Sokolik here. I don't know how the video is sharing on your end, but would you please state your name and your role relevant to these proceedings for the record?
My name is Steve Dolgan. I was and still am a VAC member at the time that this process all started. And during the process, I was asked to be on a subcommittee to investigate different rates and make a presentation to the board.
Thank you. Mr. Dolgan, did you submit pre-filed testimony in these proceedings?
I did.
Do you have an accessible copy of your pre-filed testimony dated May 8th, 2026, whether hard copy or on your computer?
I do.
Was that testimony prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
Yes, it was.
Is that testimony true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, it is.
Do you have any corrections or changes you'd like to make to that testimony today?
No, there's none.
Did you also pre-file exhibits in support of that testimony?
I did.
Do you also have copies of those exhibits before you today?
I do.
Were those exhibits supplied by you, maintained by you, or otherwise assembled under your supervision?
Yes, they were.
To the best of your knowledge, are those exhibits true and accurate copies of the documents they purport to be?
Yes, they are.
Do you have any corrections or changes you'd like to make to those exhibits at this time today?
No.
Mr. and Ms. Chairman, members of the board, AOT moves for admission of the pre-filed testimony of Steve Dolgan, together with all accompanying exhibits into the evidentiary record.
Before we rule on the admissibility, are they exhibits that are numbered or lettered?
I apologize. That's exhibits A through K.
So they're the lettered
They're the lettered
exhibits.
ones. The lettered ones correspond with Mr. Dolgan's testimony, and the numbered ones correspond with Mr. Summers.
All right. The plaintiffs, and I perhaps let's just run through it this way. Mr. Winick can proceed first, Mr. Govin second, Mr. McFarlane third, and only because that's the way you're listed in the docket sheet I have. I guess we could have gone alphabetically, but so be it. Mr. Winick, do you have any questions for Mr. Dolgan about his pre-filed testimony and or the exhibits that are attached to that testimony?
Yes, I do. Thank you. And I really appreciate having somebody with the last name W move to the top of the list. I've spent my whole life at the back of the alphabet, so thank you. Morning,
Mr.
Steve.
Winick,
How are you?
Pretty good.
Mr. Winick,
Thank
you were ahead of me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There were not many people behind me in any line I ever stood in, so, okay. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking, Scott.
So just a short few questions. What airport do you consider your home base, your home airport?
Caledonia County Airport.
Excuse me, Mr.
Caledonia?
Winick, just a moment. Mr. Winick, just a moment.
I think we hadn't formally concluded the testimony. That was just an effort to admit the exhibits, and then we're going to continue on with direct for just a couple of questions. I didn't know we were moving to cross or we were
Okay,
addressing
all right.
objections. I apologize.
I didn't understand that you had further direct. All right, Mr. Winick, can you hold your thoughts? And the V-Trans is going to ask Mr. Dolgan further questions about his testimony, at which time then cross-examination will occur.
Okay, that sounds fine. Sorry. Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry as well, Jeff.
Yeah, sorry. I just was hoping to get a general ruling on, and sorry if this is more formal than required, but on the admission of the documents before I discuss the content of the documents. So I thought we were talking about objections to the motion to admit.
We'll admit them now.
Great, thank you. I'll be very brief here, just a couple extra questions. The pre-filed contains most of this. Mr. Dolgan, sorry for the confusion there. I just want to quickly visit something from State's Exhibit 1 that you did not directly address in your pre-filed. I see it as relevant to some of plaintiffs' arguments that have been brought up in previous discussions and emails and the documents that were recently admitted on their behalf. Are you familiar with Exhibit I to your testimony?
I am checking right now. Okay. Be there in just a second. We're at E. Just about there. Okay, I would be. Yes.
Great. Do you have a
I'm
copy?
familiar with that. Yes,
Do you have a copy of that handy?
I do.
Great. Can you please explain to me what Exhibit I is generally?
Yeah, let me just review it real quick. So Exhibit I is involving the Newport Airport area has a advisory committee meetings, and I think they're meeting once a month. And this was a meeting that was being held by Paul Monette. He's the mayor. He's also kind of chairman of that. I believe he was the chairman of that meeting. So he pretty much controlled the meeting. And it's a meeting about just various items involving the airport and their requests, their suggestions and comments. And yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So this is the Northeast Kingdom International Airport Advisory Group meeting minutes from
Yes.
October 10th, 2019.
Yes.
Right. Have you ever attended those meetings of the advisory group?
I did. I attended maybe 2 or 3 of the meetings. I did back then.
Right. Do you know who generally attends or participates in those meetings?
The local flight community. Most of the individuals that are here today, I think, were on there as well. Dan Delarbier, who was at the time was running the program, he would attend them as well. Pretty much it.
Great. I just want to first very quickly bring your attention to the first page of this exhibit. There's a top of an email transmitting these minutes. Is there a statement regarding the meeting recording?
Yes.
What does that say?
It says, corrections should be sent to me since I had some issues with the audio recording of the meeting, and it was signed by Paul Manette.
Okay, and you said Paul Manette is was the mayor of Newport at the time, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And would he often administer these meetings?
Yes, as far as, yeah, I think he might have been the chairman of it at the time, but I'm not 100% on that one.
Okay, so what do you take? Do you take this understanding to mean that something happened with the audio recording of that meeting?
Yes.
Could you explain a little bit further what you think happened based on this email transmission?
Well, I can't say it was that meeting because I'm not sure if I was there at that meeting, but I know that I've been there before. I guess I was there at the meeting, that particular meeting. I see my name up there. So I do remember Paul having some problems trying to get the the recorder operating, and I think he had figured it out, and we proceeded with the meeting. But he definitely had issues with it.
Okay, does it seem like the audio recording may have been lost?
No, not that I would know of.
Right. That's all on that front. I'll move on here. Basically, one last question here. Just want to ask, what is your position on the current lease rates in the state airport system currently?
Well,
I'm going to object to Mr. Duggan. I'm going to object to that question. I think that's far beyond the scope of what I mean. It's so general as we're not sure what year, what airport,
Understood.
where in what century we are.
Happy to rephrase.
Thank you.
Mr. Dolman, are you familiar with the rates as the rate changes that took effect in July of 2019?
I am.
For the state airport system.
Yes.
Do you think those lease rate changes were fair?
I put a lot of time and effort into that, and I made a lot of phone calls. I talked to people and different airport operators and all the states around us. I even took a couple random ones out west. And as I stated in my testimony, there's a lot of factors involved, but at the end of the day, I was very satisfied with the results that we had, our recommendations and our vote that we took. Absolutely. I thought it was very fair at the time, extremely fair.
Great. AOT has no further direct examination, makes the witness available for cross or any questions from the board. Thank you, Steve.
All right. Now I think we'll take questions from the plaintiffs in the order we discussed earlier. And please preface your questions by identifying who you are.
Sure. So the first question I asked, you already answered, Steve. That's that your home airport's Caledonia, and that's your base home airport.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Please identify who's speaking because we can't see. And for the record, it needs to be a verbal identification of who's speaking.
Got it. My name's Scott Winick, and I'm continuing my cross-examination at this time. So, Steve, do you recall what the percentage increase was at Caledonia?
I don't recall. I believe the information's in the evidence that was provided, but I'm going to say it might have been a 2-cent increase or something.
Yeah, I think that's about right, which would be something in the 10% range or something like that, which is interesting because other airports had huge increases, and the difference between Caledonia and the other airports was striking when we first saw the data. Let's just shift over to the meeting. That there was a VAC meeting at which I was not in attendance, but some of the other plaintiffs were in attendance. Do you recall at the meeting when the rates were proposed and your study was proposed, the discussion that took place there and whether or not there were people who had reservations and wanted to have further discussions to try and get more accuracy and more reasonable data collected? Do you recall anything like that happening at that meeting?
I think pretty much everything you said took place at that meeting, Scott.
Yeah, so my point is that there were objections. Maybe that's concerns, let's call them concerns. It was hardly what one would call a unanimous approval of moving forward with those increases, but that's what ended up happening. So in this case, there were objections expressed at the VAC by some of the attendees, and I'll let the other people can chime in afterwards. But that's just the point I wanted to establish, that what rolled out afterwards with no further discussion among the user community was the results that were proposed there. And I think that was a great surprise to many people who were there. Do you currently own a hangar anywhere in the state?
I do.
Do you have a plane of yours in that hangar?
I do not have an airplane at this particular time in my hangar.
And can you articulate for the Transportation Board what your understanding is of the guidelines for the use of a hangar after many, many years of not owning a plane of your
Objection,
own?
I think was getting outside of the scope of, there's everything know where we're going at the moment.
Mr. Winick, can you explain to us why this information is pertinent or relevant to the case on remand?
I can. I think it reflects mostly on a rather casual relationship with some of the documentation and the reality of implementing the AOT's rules and regulations. And that certainly is a point that we're contesting here at this hearing now. So I think it goes to the probably the looseness with which things can be interpreted. And that's why I think it's important to hear what Mr. Dolgan thinks about the propriety of using a hangar for other uses than aviation.
Except, Mr. Winick, you're asking Mr. Dolgan about his views in 2026, not in 2019, when the actions that we're reviewing today occurred.
If those views have changed, I'm certainly open to hear how they've evolved. I'm not precluding the.
All right, we'll take the question, but I'm not sure the responses are going to be determined relevant by the board.
Just for the, to continue the objection, the plaintiff's argument is such that since they're arguing about airport rules today, I don't see that is on any part of the remand at the moment.
I understand your
questions, but just for the record.
Thank you. Go ahead. Was the question finished, Mr. Winick?
Yes, though my questions were finished. I'm not sure. I think Bruce may have some additional questions.
Well, no. It's the question was of Mr. Dolgan, and I don't think Mr. Dolgan responded.
Correct. Is he going to respond, or have you ruled that he doesn't need to respond?
We're going to take his response.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Mr. Dolgan.
Can you re-ask that question again?
Yeah, I thought so. I was hoping he would. Fire away again, Mr. Winick.
The question has to do with what's your view of using a hangar for non-aviation purposes over a long period of time. And you can distinguish between what you thought in 2019 and now in 2026 if those are different. But I'd like to just understand what your view of owning and using a hangar for non-aviation purposes is.
Well, I'm not involved with that at all. I mean, as far as any regulations or any rules or anything else, but as a pilot, because there's such limited space on all of our airports, I believe that they should certainly be, a very large percentage should be related to aviation that's in your hangar. Absolutely. Did I answer your question okay?
Yeah, and is that the case with your hangar?
Yes. Oh, definitely.
And are the people that are in that hangar leasing the space from you?
Objection again. I think he's just attempting to harass the witness.
We're going to take the end. Go ahead, Mr. Winick.
Yeah, my question had to do with whether there was a more formal arrangement for a lease and whether that person, because there are very specific rules in the lease agreements, which is the subject of what we're discussing today, that define how that should be handled. And my question is, were your arrangements with your hangar, have they been handled in accordance with those lease agreements?
I haven't really followed all that stuff, Scott, and all I can tell you is that my hangar is being used by at least one other person to store their hangar at this particular time. So
To store their airplane, you mean?
yes, I'm sorry, to store
Yeah, okay.
store their airplane in my hangar.
Okay, well, that certainly doesn't comport with the spirit and the letter of what's in the leases, but I'm done with my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Govan,
Just a question in terms of redirect, would you like me to do that at the end of all the
Yes.
discussions? Great.
Mr. Govan, do you have any questions for Mr. Dolgan?
Yeah, this is Dan Gobbin. Steve, what year did you sell your plane?
About 3 years ago, Dan.
Do you
So
fly
between-
anymore?
I haven't flown
Objections,
in 3 years.
irrelevance, I think.
Yep.
Running is
I
fine.
understand. I'm sorry, Mr. Govan, what was the second question?
Oh, I've just wondered, do you fly anymore or have you stopped flying completely?
I haven't stopped flying completely, that's for sure. It's just that, when you're too busy and a plane's got to fly, and it's better off for me to move that plane and look for something else. So I love it. Can't wait to get back. Be honest with you.
Right. On another question, you took other airports from other states, you clearly said around, even out west. What were some of those airports and what are the populations around those airports to come with the 25 cents that we had increased?
Well, I never took that into any kind of consideration. I was more interested in what they offered as the airport. What do they have for facilities? What do they have for runway lengths, safety things? That's how I based my decision on as to what these airports had. It wasn't based upon population or the number of pilots or anything. It was just good generic research that I had done. And, I hope that answers your question.
Not really, because Newport, if you look at an apple, we only have 50% of an apple. The rest of our place is Canada. Versus any other airport, they got a complete circle of aviators can fly in. That's what I'm wondering. It's a different area from another airport, let's say Beverly, Mass, or anything like that, or in Connecticut. I mean, I've heard some stories, and I can't put my hand on how you came with a 25-cent increase based on those airports.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes.
So one of the things that was, and again, we didn't come up with those things. Those are things that were presented to us, those rates. The VAC committee, we just made recommendations based upon all the information we were provided. I would definitely want to mention this, that the location of your airport is still in the United States of America. It's one of, I think it's 10 state-run airports in the state of Vermont. And I can just stress my own personal use alone is having the federal government spend $35 million or more on that airport, is that it's an amazing facility in safetiness, in all the amenities that you guys have up there. I mean, I think every pilot in Vermont is jealous that we're not up there because of what you people have. And so the rates that we looked at, again, there's many factors, Dan, as you know, there's so many factors, it's crazy. But we felt that was extremely fair pricing when you look at Caledonia. I mean, Caledonia, we have nothing compared to what you people have. You have an amazing place. You've done a great job up there. Everybody loves to fly to Newport. Not many people like to fly into Caledonia. It's a whole total different ball of wax. We don't have the dual runways. We don't have a lot of features that you guys have. And, when I look at the rates, I look at the rates even today, and I would be thrilled to pay double for my hangar if I could have anywhere near the amenities you guys have up there. I'm
Right.
done.
Anything further, Mr. Govan?
Oh, I'll rest for now. Thank you.
Mr. McFarlane?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, and Mr. Dolgan. Hello, Mr. Dolgan. Can you hear me? This is Bruce McFarlane.
I can, Bruce. How are you?
Nice to meet you, Mr. Dolgan. We've never met.
I thought we
Mr.
did.
Dolgan,
Okay.
how long have you been flying, and how long have you been around the Caledonia Airport down in Caledonia County?
Well, I'm very proud of the fact that Mr. Govin took me for my basically first flights, and I trained up there. But I'm going to say I've been a pilot now for probably going on 15 years.
15 years. And I didn't know you trained at Northeast Kingdom. So that would have 15 years ago, you trained at Northeast Kingdom with Dan?
Yeah, well, he wasn't a flight instructor, but he was extremely instrumental. Did a great job, Dan.
I see. Mr. Dolgan, we've never met. Isn't that correct? Even though we're fairly somewhat close by two airports, 30 miles apart.
I think we've met personally up in the FBO office. I think Dan introduced us a couple of times, but that's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry, but I don't recall meeting you, and I just find that really hard to believe. Again, I've been flying in and out of Newport, Northeast Kingdom International for 50 years, and I built a hangar 20 years ago, and I just can't believe that I've never met you before. I also, you made reference to attending one of our airport committee meetings, which usually are not recorded, by the way. I was very entertained by Mr. Solulik. I'm sorry, my apologies for mispronouncing if I did or did not. But we generally don't record those meetings. That's just, if we can, we do, but it's not like a state procedure. Incidentally, Mr. Dolgan, you said you're jealous you're not up there at our NEK airport, and you'd be thrilled to be up there. Listen, I have a 7,000-foot hangar. It's heated, and it's for sale.
Mr. McFarlane, this is the vice chair. I appreciate the introduction of familiarity, which is certainly an element of all of our lives in Vermont. But please focus your questions on relevant information that you want to obtain for Mr. Dolgan.
I will. And thank you for getting me back on center line on runway 36. I appreciate it. The point I'm really trying to make is that it comes down to the VAC, which is very much central and a part of what happened here. And I did read Mr. Dolgan's so-called pre-filed testimony, and I was really surprised to hear that he had written or mentioned in that testimony that he had spent so much time representing us and informing us, and he was in touch with everybody. I've never met him. I had no idea he even represented our airport. The VAC is a problem. If you're not going to have a representative from every airport on the VAC, Mr. Dolgan had no business representing our airport. I don't think he was involved with our airport other than his initial training 15 years ago, from what he says. He was satisfied and thought it was very fair to do the increase. The increase at his airport was actually 16.7%. So yeah, I would be pretty satisfied with that as well. Mr. Dolgan did not talk to me, inform me. I had no idea the increase was coming until there was word of mouth around the airport from Dan, the manager, saying, they're trying to raise our rents or our lease rents. And then I had a letter in my mailbox after the fact saying retroactively, my cost and my lease, and in my particular case, went up 160.2%. Mr. Dolgan did not represent me at the VAC, and I don't believe he represented our airport. And Mr. Dolgan, I look forward to meeting you in person, and we can do that at the Miss Lindenville Diner and have some blueberry pancake roll-ups. and talk about how the Canadians took the game last night. Thanks.
Thank you. Jeff, before you start, Mr. Duggan, I have a question for you. The exhibit I is a cover. It's an email message from Paul Monette to a whole list of individuals, and it relates to the minutes from the October 10th meeting. Correct?
Correct.
Well, if I look at the attendees of the October 10th meeting, I don't see you listed upon as one of those in attendance.
As I mentioned, I don't know which meeting I was there at. So I can't say that I was actually there at that meeting, but I have been there before at a meeting where Mr. Manette also had a problem with the recorder. So
All right, it doesn't refute anything that happened at the meeting, whether you were there or not. If these are the minutes, they're the minutes. So
correct.
I don't think it's fatal. I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to that. So that being the case, then we're going to hand you over as a witness to Mr. Sokol.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I think the only question I had, I believe, was mostly addressed in one of your answers. Here, plaintiffs raised a comparison of rate changes between Northeast Kingdom International and Caledonia. I believe your testimony, your response was to indicate the disparity in amenities provided. Could you extrapolate a little bit more on that, the differences between the two in terms of services that are offered or at Caledonia versus up at Northeast Kingdom International, just to better spell that out for the record?
Yeah, I'll try to be as brief as I can. But again, as a pilot, we obviously want to have all the best safety features that we can possibly have, whether it be extended runways, crosswind runways. There's a lot of factors to this. And I'm just using that as a relationship to be like my hangar. Let's say my hangar at Caledonia, which is the largest private hangar at Caledonia. Let's say the lease rate on that is, for a dollar value, $600. I would be thrilled to pay $1,200, maybe even $2,000 for my hangar if I could have half the amenities that they do 13 miles to the north. I mean, as I mentioned, we've got a roughly a 3,000-foot runway. They have a 5,000-foot runway. They have a crosswind runway. Amazingly, I mean, brand new. They're just perfectly, great stuff. Everything from a extremely modern fuel farms to a brand new FBO office. And I will say, by the way, Dan does a phenomenal job up there, Dan Govan. But just the amenities they have, all the safety features. I can go on and on. They've got better. They've got TAFs up there. They've got better communications for pilots. Again, the list is just tremendous if you understood, if you were a pilot. There isn't a pilot that I would know in Vermont that wouldn't, again, love to be able to have the facilities that's located there at their airport. So in the value, I mean, I think if you ask any pilot out of Newport, would they want to be down at Caledonia for the amenities? And that answer would be unanimous no. They're thrilled at what they have up there. I'm thrilled for them as a VAC member that they're able to get it, and very jealous we don't have any of that at Caledonia.
Great, thank you very much. No further questions from the agency for Mr. Dolgan.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bruce McFarlane. I'd like to ask Mr. Dolgan a few questions, if I can.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Dolgan, I'm a pilot as well. What airplane did you use to fly?
An Archer, Piper Archer.
Piper Archer. How much runway do you need to make a landing and takeoff?
As much as I can get.
That doesn't answer the question. As a pilot, you're familiar with the limitations and capabilities of your airplane?
I am.
How much runway, just, roughly, how much runway do you need to take off and land?
Well, according to the manuals with it, I believe it's around 1,600 feet, but that the manuals don't take into consideration any wind factors, any weather factors, or anything at all, traffic factors. And as I said, the longer the runway, absolutely, and you know that, Bruce, is a
I do.
huge
And
advantage.
how long is the runway at Caledonia?
Just about 3,000 feet.
About 3,000 feet. So you've got you got some safety room there as well. So you really, with your airplane, 5,400 feet, that extra 1,000 feet that was added to our runway really doesn't make a difference. You have fuel at Caledonia as well. Am I right? You can gas your plane up there?
No, you cannot.
Oh, you don't have fuel at Caledonia?
No, we don't.
Last time I was there, boy, they had one of the better prices of fuel in the state. I didn't realize it wasn't there. There's
You
no
haven't
fuel
been there-
available.
Bruce, you haven't been there in a year and a half.
So a year and a half ago, back in 2019, you had fuel?
In 2019, we did, but you didn't specify a date.
No, I didn't. But my recollection, you're right. I have not been there in quite some time. Again, you say be jealous not to be up at our airport, but down at your airport, how large is your hangar? How many square feet?
Mine's roughly 55 by, let's say, 60.
How many square feet? Do you know what that?
Call it 3,000 square feet.
3,000 square feet. And you said yours is the largest at the airport?
Yeah, well, yes, the largest private hangar.
Largest private hangar. I've been thinking of coming down there myself. You know why?
Tell me why.
Because I could build a hangar down there and probably build a living room and sleeping accommodations in there. I mean, it's going to be a terrific airport, don't you think?
Mr. McFarlane, where are you going with this line of questioning?
I understand there's a new hangar being built down there that has living accommodations in it. I'm just pointing that out. And also, I'd like to say that Mr.
What
Golden,
relevance is, Mr. McFarlane, I appreciate your colloquial approach to this, and I'm glad you're feeling warm and fuzzy about this process. But there are rules of evidence, and relevancy is one of the fundamental elements of that. So please keep your questions relevant to the matter before the board.
I will. Can I ask Mr. Dolgan, you said that Mr. Delabrie, who used to manage the state airports for VTrans, would be at our meetings. Do you realize that his presence at those meetings was very, very rare? And how many meetings would you say you attended, Mr. Dolgan? Again, this comes back to the point that we had no representation at the back, and you really are not involved in our airport or know very little about it. And if you'd also just, as a final question, list the amenities that you talked about that our airport has that your airport does not have. What amenities? We both have GBS approaches. I thought we both had fuel. You actually have had a nicer terminal up until recently. We've got a nice one now, finally. But what other amenities are available up? Do you have a giant landfill that's expanding right around? That's one of our best amenities up at the airport. Do you have that, Mr. Dolgan?
Bruce, I really don't know how to answer that question, and I'm sorry that I really don't. I'm going to try. But when the federal government puts in $35 million into that airport, there's going to be some amenities. So I'm not going to list them all. We already talked about a bunch of them. As a pilot, every airport's got its restrictions, whether it be a landfill or not. That's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. It never bothered me. I just had to follow the flight plans and follow the guidelines. That's what you do as a pilot. So, again, I'm just trying to point out that my opinion was based upon the fact of what each airport has for amenities to provide the pilots, what's the infrastructures like, all that stuff. And when you start looking at Caledonia County Airport versus Newport Airport, it's absolutely not even on the radar. They can't compare the two. Furthermore, let me finish. Let me answer your question. Furthermore, you are 1,000% wrong about my involvement with your airport. I was not up there physically a lot. I talked to Paul, got his information. Even I'm sure Dan Gobbin's going to tell you, back in those days, I was extremely friendly. I was there all the time, flying in and out of Newport. And I spent a lot, and Dan and I would communicate frequently about what his concerns were. He brought up a lot of great concerns to me. We had a lot of conversations. So maybe I didn't meet you personally other than once or twice in the FBO, but I just want to let you know, I had a keen sense of what was going on in Newport. Very clear. Thank you.
Again, you have not listed the difference of amenities between the airport.
Mr. McFarlane, are you talking about the amenities in the airports in between the two airports on July 1st, 2019?
That's correct. And Mr. Dolgan has not answered the question. I want to know what the amenity differences are.
I'm sorry. Repeat that.
Yeah, I don't think Mr. Dolgan explained or listed the differences in the amenities. He's saying that he'd love to be up at our airport. We have a longer runway, but other than that, what other amenities do we have?
Mr. McFarlane, we're talking about the airports on July 1st, 2019.
That's correct. So am I.
Well, then your question should identify that.
Mr. Dolgan, what is the difference in amenities?
Mr. Dolgan, can you very simply list or identify what the difference in the amenities were on July 1st, 2019?
Absolutely. Again, I'm going to be brief. I'm going to be brief because there's a lot of them. Some of the major ones, massively major, is it's got a beautiful crosswind runway. And for safety, every pilot knows how important that is. So at Caledonia County Airport, we have a lot of winds blowing out to the west all the time. We don't have a crosswind runway. If the winds are above, say, 15, 18, 20 miles an hour, we're going to have to divert to Newport. So we appreciate the fact that Newport has that.
Mr. Dolgan, can I interrupt just for a moment? Let's just list the amenities without amplifying what they add or detract.
Yeah. Okay. So it has Newport Airport has a greatly improved lighting system at nighttime. Huge safety factors. They had better, again, their instrumentation. I'm not an instrument rated pilot, but I know that a lot of people fly up there a lot more than they did at our airport for training and practices. And again, I know I've said this probably 4 or 5 times, but the extra length in that runway is so important. Whether somebody's got an emergency situation or whatever it is, but it is so important. The approaches up there, the tree clearing is so much better than at Caledonia. The approaches. And those are really some of the basic fundamentals. Even the light. I think back in 2019, I'm not sure back then if we had the size of our approach, our green and white lights telling us that there's an airport. Again, the TAFs, which are part of the where you dial in to get your weather frequencies and what's going on there in the local airport. That's there. I mean, you just don't. We don't have any of that stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Dolgan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Dolgan.
You got it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Let the record show that Mr. Dolgan did not really list any amenities. The crosswind runway he references is no longer funded, and the state of Vermont has announced that they have no money to continue, and it will be allowed to degrade and will not be maintained. So we have a 5,500 foot runway, and that, just for the record, is a pilot to Mr. Dolgan, another pilot. Yes, more runway and more gas are the two great rules in flying for safety, but the runway really serves the jet aircraft for the area and really has nothing to do with the type of flying that I do and the type of flying that Mr. Dolgan does. And Mr. Dolgan, I would encourage you to get your instrument rating. When you do, you'll discover that your airport also has two instrument approaches, I should say. We only have one instrument approach, so you've got better amenities down there than we do. That's it. Thank you very much.
Just one final comment. In 2019, your crosswind one day was active. And that's like a 4,000 foot runway, if I'm not mistaken. It's huge. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is
Yes.
Scott. Yeah,
Yes.
quick question, because I've heard comments about how preferable Newport is to other airports and why it's good. The market has a lot to say about that. And when I say the market, I'm talking about the market for hangars. And back in 2019 and all the way through even current times, there have been 4 to 5 hangars ranging in price from very little to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, hangars all over the map that have been for sale, languishing up in the Northeast Kingdom. So, when you compare these market values to other airports in Massachusetts or New York or in other areas, there's something missing in that analysis, because being a hangar owner there, I guess in the interest of full disclosure, I should mention the hangar I owned when this all began, I have divested myself of finally, but took a beating on the price, obviously, just to move on. So I don't have a dog in this fight any longer, but you and the board should really understand the market is what tells you the value, what someone's willing to pay. So I'm just going to wrap up with that. Thank you for letting me interject that.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, nothing more from Mr. Dolgan. Thank you very much for your time. Nothing further from the agency from Mr. Dolgan.
All right, then. So Mr. Dogan's pre-filed testimony is being offered into evidence. We've had direct examination from V-Trans counsel. We've had cross-examination from the 3 plaintiffs in attendance. Is there a motion to admit the evidence into the record?
Yes, I was under the impression previously that the state had moved and it was so admitted, but we'll move again to clarify. Motion to admit pre-filed testimony and all direct and associated exhibits A through B.
Any further comments from the plaintiffs?
Not from me. This is Scott.
Spruce McFarlane. There's an echo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to go very clear on the record that I do not believe the VAC represented our airport, and I don't believe Mr. Dolgan represented our airport.
Thank you. Mr. Govin?
Yes, I just want to add one thing, and, Steve mentioned that, we have a TAF and all that, and that was not on behalf of the state that put that in place. We, the pilots at Newport, through intense months and months of proving that we can do it, we did it through Paul Manette, knowing people to help us put that in place. So that was the Newport committee that put that in place, and that's how we have that today.
What is it you're talking about?
The terminal area forecast, the TAF that we now have.
I understand, Mr. Govin. None of the members of the board are pilots.
Right.
And so if you use acronyms in a sentence, you're leaving us
All right.
on the runway.
When you look up the weather situation at Newport, the TAF will give you an extended forecast up to 18 to 24 hours. That was put in place from the Newport Airport Committee at the time.
Okay.
We spent probably a year trying to put that into place.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Bruce McFarland. For clarification for the Transportation Board, TAF stands for Terminal Aviation Forecast. It applies to a large geographic area. In our case, it covers the area to the next nearest terminal aviation forecast point. The nearest one, we didn't have one up here, which is why it was so important that we as the airport committee worked so hard in getting the National Weather Service to issue it. It's a key safety factor, and any commercial operations, of which we hope to have in the future at our airport with our long runway, they require that there is a terminal aviation forecast, and it's issued, and it's a major, major safety enhancement. And it just covers an entire geographical area. In our case, the nearest TAFs are Sherbrooke, Canada, and down to Whitefield, New Hampshire, near Mount Washington. There's one in Berry, Montpelier, and there's one in Burlington. As you can see, if you picture that map, there was a big hole on this side of the Green Mountains where we had no aviation weather forecast. The Caledonia County Airport and all the other airports within that geographic region benefit, and it enhances the safety for Caledonia and Newport, as well as other smaller airports that are in the vicinity. Terminal aviation forecast, it's a big deal. Dr. Nat Sims was primarily behind this with the mayor of Newport, since he's a meteorologist.
All right, Mr.
Also-
McFarland, thank you. We don't need the history of TAFs. Thank you. I don't mean to be brusque, but my question was answered. Now we understand. So, anything further, Mr. Dolgan, by the plaintiffs?
Nothing for me.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dolgan.
Am I good to go?
Excuse me, just a moment, please. Sorry. Yes, okay, yeah. All right, yes, we're gonna admit Mr. Dolgan's pre-filed testimony into evidence, including the attached exhibits.
Thank you very much. And I believe Mr. Dolgan just asked if he's free to go, and I believe so, right?
I believe you are, Mr. Dolgan, although your penance should be you have to remain.
Thank you.
But it's a beautiful May afternoon, so I hope you have a nice day.
Yeah, I know I got a lot of work to do, but thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you now.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Moving on, AOT would like to call Trini Broussard as its next witness. Physically, I guess they sit next to her. I'm not sure with the witness chair.
That's fine.
Yes. Would you please state your full name and occupation for the record?
My name is Trini Broussard, I was Assistant Director of Policy Planning and Intermodal Development. I am now Director of Intermodal Development.
Congratulations.
Excuse me, just for the record, Trini, you're gonna have to project your voice, I think, a little bit beyond just sitting just conversationally next to Jeff.
Sometimes helps.
Yeah.
Ms. Broussard, did you pre-file testimony in these proceedings?
Yes,
Do you have a copy before you of your pre-filed testimony originally executed on July 10th, 2025 and re-executed for a modified format on April 30th of this year?
yes,
Was that testimony prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
yes,
Is that testimony true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
yes,
Do you have any corrections or changes you'd like to make to that testimony?
No.
Did you also pre-file exhibits in support of your testimony?
yes,
Do you have copies of those exhibits before you today?
yes,
Were those exhibits prepared by you, maintained by AOT in the ordinary course of business, or otherwise assembled under your supervision?
yes,
To the best of your knowledge, are those exhibits true and accurate copies of the documents they purport to be?
yes,
Do you have any corrections or changes you'd like to make to those exhibits? Okay, at this time, AOT would move for admission of this pre-filed testimony of Trini Broussard together with accompanying exhibits into the evidentiary record.
Yes, we noticed that at least our copies, these of this testimony have cover sheet lists 4 exhibits, and the attachments count to 5. The last being the VAC minutes from June 24th, 2019.
Think that might be so the testimony was re-executed. It was initially submitted as part of the administrative record with exhibits 1 through 4. And I think that when it was ultimately submitted in July, it was only resubmitted to match the board's scheduling order format regarding numbered transcript lines when it was re-executed. But in July, when it was submitted before the evidentiary submission deadline, it did have Exhibit 5.
Can I look at what your guys' is?
You sent.
Yes, and did you get this, our exhibit and witness list? Because that lists the 5 exhibits.
Right, Mr. Chair Salinger, Vice Chair Salinger.
Oh, it's saying right here.
Clarification that
Yeah.
on the,
I see.
So
The
all
cover letter, it's right.
Yeah,
So, yes,
Cover sheet.
the cover sheet of the actual
Yeah.
pre-file testimony, I apologize, should have mention of Exhibit 5, which is titled and referenced on the exhibit witness list as VAAC, Vermont Aviation Advisory Council minutes from June 24th, 2019.
yes, and for the record, that was submitted with 5 as the cover sheet from you all, but the direct testimony does not identify that. This one.
Appreciate that. Apologies.
Go ahead.
So that was AOT had moved to admit the pre-filed testimony and all of the 5 exhibits.
All right. Plaintiffs. I wish I had another name for your team, but
Just to clarify,
Yes.
I do have 1 or 2 direct. This is similar before. I was hoping to talk about substance of some of these, so just by process.
oh, okay. I thought you were. Go ahead.
So we'll move to admit at the end then, I guess. We can talk about this stuff. Okay. Just a couple of questions for you here, Trini. One is in regards to, we touched on this a little bit with our other witness, Mr. Dolgan, but do you have perhaps a better understanding being in charge of monitoring these types of things, a list of year-round maintenance and operation of grounds and assets, a list of airport considerations, features that Northeast Kingdom International Airport has, basically what amenities they have that they get for the lease rates that are being contested here, just to give the board a full understanding of.
sure. So in most cases, V-Trans enters into a lease agreement with someone wanting to build a hangar. We're just leasing the land, not the hangar. It's up to them what they build. They can build a fancy one. They can build a very basic one. Sometimes they do T hangars, so they go back to back. Other people participate.
Ms. Broussard, those are ground leases, are they not?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
Technically, it's a ground lease.
it is a ground lease. Yep, that's all we're leasing to them. What we provide for the rate they pay is we maintain the airport and the infrastructure. So V-Trans does all the winter plowing. We even plow, I think the lease calls for us to stay 10 feet away from the front of the hangars. In most cases, we get as close as we can, leaving a safe distance so a driver doesn't hit the hangar. We provide all the snow, if there's ice or whatever, we take care of that too. We do all the summer mowing to meet all the standards set by the FAA. We maintain all the lights at the airports, all of the navigation easements. We're out getting permits from A&R to clear trees, to remove those type of things. We do all the maintenance of, we have some state hangars out there and some state facilities. We own buildings that have all the snow removal equipment. So we maintain that building. We maintain all the equipment to do this. And I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I'm forgetting. We have a lot of environmental permits.
Would FBO services, are those guaranteed at every airport?
No,
Is that considered an amenity that is counted into or is counted in the factoring of AOT's lease rate analysis?
it is a service that's at an airport that we look at, yes.
Could you identify it?
Flight-based operator,
Fixed.
fixed-based, I apologize, fixed-based operator, you explain what?
FBO,
So,
FBO.
yeah.
Apologies, that
it's an
acronym.
acronym.
Correct.
Spit it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of our airports, we have agreements with entities. Dan Gobbin is one of them at Newport. They're there, they greet people using the airport. They help maintain a level of service. They might provide maintenance services on aircraft there. Sometimes they help with lining up rental cars, food services onto them, especially at Newport. We have a lot of jet traffic. Sometimes they want food back on the jet while the folks are off at J Peak. Fueling. I'm sure I'm forgetting some of the things, but basically it's an individual or an entity that provides a level of service to people using the airport,
Ms. Broussard,
but they don't all have.
how is power delivered? How's electric power delivered to end users at an airport?
So, it's up to the person building the hangar to connect to the service. We have it on the airport. They would provide the connection from the pole to their hangar, and that's their account at that point.
So
So when we look at
So
the hangars, they're responsible. We pay the rest of
the
it.
electrical utility in Orleans County then is,
I'm
Yes.
not sure who it is.
does anyone know? It must be Green Mountain then.
No,
If it was-
it's Vermont Co-op.
Oh, Vermont Electric Co-op, okay. So that the co-op has a distribution line on the state's airport property.
Correct.
And then they have lines then from their distribution line, they have service lines from their distribution line to end users
Yeah, every
And
hangar has its
possessors-
own meter.
Yes. And
and,
then
who possess a ground lease. Okay,
in some cases it's ours, right? Because we.
yes,
own
no,
some
I
of them.
understand. You're an end
Others,
user
it's
then.
the person that built them.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Are there differences in terms of, I know there's certain airports have fuel farms, certain ones other. Does Northeast Cayman International offer any different types of fuel? Knowing not everyone uses it, but are there that might factor in the Jet A fuel or?
So some of our airports don't have fuel services on them. You heard Steve mention Caledonia doesn't. Their system failed and has not been replaced at this time.
Could you
Some of them
clarify
have
whether
just
we're
what they
talking
call
about-
avgas, which
we-
is
Excuse me? Who's speaking?
This is Scott. I was saying we should clarify whether we're talking about 2019 or 2026 once again.
we were talking about the services in general on the airports and the different types that are there.
I think the question from counsel for V-Trans to Ms. Broussard was what to generically discuss what amenities can be made available at an airport. And so it's just educational so far as the board's concerned. But please proceed.
We have, some of our airports have a single service, which is usually avgas, which is aviation gas. It's used for just your smaller aircraft. Use that. We also have Jet A is the type of fuel it's called. It's for the larger aircraft. Not all of our airports have Jet A service, but it's needed. And you'll find our airports that have the longer runways, Northeast Kingdom for one, and Springfield, Rutland are our three, I think, that have Jet A, maybe Bennington. Berlin, sorry, looking at the project manager. But those are runways where jets can come in, larger aircraft.
AOT. Further questions for direct examination of Ms. Broussard this time, but like to make the witness available for cross-examination and reserved for redirect. Sure.
All right, now we're going to pivot to the plaintiffs And in the order that we established earlier, could you please direct cross-examination towards Ms. Broussard?
Sure. Hello, Ms. Broussard. My name is Scott Winick. I don't believe we've ever had the opportunity to meet in person, but I would like to invite you to sit next to me on the Wayback Machine here for a moment. And we're going to travel back to December 10th of 2020. That was a meeting that was held in an attempt to, one of the earlier attempts to try and explain or justify the increases that were meted out to the various airports in Vermont. Do you recall that meeting?
I assume you're talking about the one that we did on Teams. I don't
It
know
was-
the date of the meeting, Scott.
It was done on Teams, you're correct. I think some of the people from AOT might have been co-located, but I certainly was on a Teams part of it. Very good. So it was December 10th of 2020. And you were asked a very specific question at one point during that meeting. And by the way, this meeting was also recorded, video and audio, but managed to disappear somewhere along the line. So that's why I'm asking you specifically, if you recall. The question was there a connection between all of the studies that were done establishing values, prices, metrics for the different airports that you selected around the Northeast area, you know, Albany and Massachusetts and Vermont, New Hampshire, well, those airports, was there a metric in a spreadsheet that would calculate the amounts, or at least a proportion of those amounts that would be handed out to the various airports? Do you recall your answer to that question?
I do not recall my exact answer to that question.
Well, it's in the
Was it a
record.
question, Mr. Winick? This is the chair. Was it a question at this meeting, or was it a subject of this meeting?
It was a specific question asked at this meeting of Ms. Broussard to explain the relationship between the data collected and the numbers handed out. And if Ms. Broussard doesn't recall, it's certainly in the administrative record. There are affidavits from many of the folks who were in attendance on that meeting. And if you like, I could refresh your memory as to what was said.
Can you identify where in the record this exists? Can anyone?
I might be able to. Hang on. Actually, I'll go through this. I'll do this while other people are asking questions if you like. But there was a specific submission, and I do have the submissions from the early administrative record that I put in, where the affidavits were from people that were in attendance. So I'd like to get back to the question, though. Do you recall the answer to that question? It was critical, absolutely critical to why we are here today.
I gotta tell you, 6 years ago, I'm not gonna be able to tell you verbatim how I answered a question. Sorry.
I can understand that. It's just that it was in the record. It was brought up in every single brief that we filed. It was brought up in every single rebuttal and every single offer that we made. Well, maybe not all the settlement offers, but it has been mentioned dozens of times along this way. And it is absolutely critical, I think, that the board understand why this led to here. I'll give you the answer. The answer was no. There is no connection between that data and the numbers that were handed out. And then the explanation went on to, it was sort of a subjective evaluation, and we made these numbers up. And that, I think, coming from
Yes.
Coming from the person who was, I think, key in establishing this, was a shocking admission. I believe the meeting should have ended at that moment. It didn't. We continued to have further discussions, and we all know that we went on further with that in our minds, that yes, a study was done, the data was collected, there was no connection between that and the 160% increase to some people, the 108% increase to others. There was a vague notion that some airports are worth more than others and some are about this. If you work this problem hard enough, you will statistically be able to justify any number. But as pilots, and in my case, an engineer, my apologies for being an engineer in that sense, but if you can't connect the dots to say these values at these airports, then stop doing it. Come up with a sustainable method that works. We know what that method is. We know how to do it. We've suggested it any number of times. Please stop defending the indefensible and let's get on some solid ground. That was the point of that way back trip to December 10th of 2020. I don't have any more
Mr. Winick,
questions.
Mr. Winick, let me ask you a question. You just, in the form of your cross-examination, you asked if there was, or you summarized Ms. Broussard's testimony as saying there was, I think you used the words, no connection. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Right. There's no documentary evidence that establishes a connection. Is that another way to say that?
Correct.
All right.
And
Thank you.
And given the opportunity for 7 years and a Supreme Court hearing to produce that data, all we keep doing is rehashing the same stuff. If you keep doing it enough, you're going to get to the answer you want. I know that. You know that. Let's put this on a solid ground that we can agree. No pilot in this state expects their rates to go down. Let's be reasonable. No pilot expects that to be the result. But the amount of the increase and the slingshot effect of this poor system that we are trying to defend, the indefensible, is causing this proceeding. I'm done.
Thank you.
Let me answer that. Like, or did he just testify?
Mr. Govin,
Yes,
Mr. Govin, do you have any questions for Ms. Broussard?
no, Scott pretty much he pretty much said everything I could have thought the same way.
Thank you. Mr. McFarlane,
Mr. Chairman, this is Bruce McFarlane. I have some questions for Mrs. Broussard. Yes, I do. Mrs. Broussard, can you hear me okay? This is Bruce McFarlane.
Yes, I can.
Hello, and congratulations on your new position. And I'm actually excited for you. And I'm very pleased at the changes we've all witnessed within your organization, and particularly pleased that you have some new young aviators that are involved in managing the airports. I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, and as Scott Winick has just said, I think there's some things that can be improved, and we're here to help, actually. We don't want to be here doing this. We want to be working together for the state of Vermont to help the Northeast Kingdom International Airport bring prosperity to this part of the state. So I'm glad you're in your new position. I hope you will join us at the table and help bring the NEK Airport to new success and new success for the community. My question is going back to 2019 and regarding your market analysis. You testified in the record that a 25-cent rate was justified by a regional market analysis. Isn't that correct?
Yes, as a piece of it, yep.
Okay. And to perform the valid market analysis, an appraiser was utilized to select comparables. Is that correct? And the comparable properties. I'm sorry. Let me just finish the question. My apologies. I didn't finish my question. Comparable properties share the similar geographic and economic realities. Is that correct? Your appraiser did that?
The state appraiser did the value of the land portion of the rate setting.
Okay, and he did that with comparables that share similar geographic and economic realities. Is that the land, the dirt under my hangar? And when he did the comparables, they were similar geographic and economic realities surrounding that dirt. Is that correct?
I can't testify on what they used. The agency has a right-of-way section, and they did land values based on the values set by municipalities and the values set by the real estate market. I believe are the two factors that we use when we set land value.
Thank you. In your analysis, as you were doing all that, did you factor in the land lease rates of airports in wealthier, more prosperous regions around Vermont and southern New England and New York State, correct?
No, not correct.
You didn't factor. I thought you looked at airports in Albany and in New Hampshire and down around Boston. I mean, obviously they're very different from the Northeast Kingdom, and they were factors. You looked at them, and I thought that were part of your computation.
I think you're mixing things up, Bruce. Our lease allows us to look at the land value, and the land value is the piece the appraiser did. We also then look at comparable airports. And so the agency put together, it was very similar to the 2008 list of airports that we used. We did a whole spreadsheet that talked about what was at and available at each airport, from runway length to population size to lights. Going off the top of my head here, but we had a variety of categories, and we identified the airports. We then took that data to the VAC and had a conversation about whether we had regionally the right airports, or if anybody knew of any others. They had 30 days to get back to us. There was no additional airports that came in. So then we looked at those for what they were charging for rates, and some of them had a little bit lower lease rates, but they charged landing fees and other fees for use of the airport. We took all that data back to the VAC, and we talked about all those factors and sort of what all those different airports look like. And that's when we started grouping and looked at kind of a blend of, if we had rates set by others in the region, we didn't want to price ourselves out so nobody would use our airports, but at the same time, we wanted it to be affordable in the state. So we looked at the rates others were using. We looked at the land rate. And then we also looked at the spreadsheets that showed the actual cost to maintain the airports versus the revenue we were receiving from them. All those pieces of information went back to the VAC with a recommendation of the rates to be set.
Thank you, Mrs. Broussard. A few more questions, please, and I appreciate your time and your honesty. Just getting back to Orleans County, Northeast Kingdom Airport, are you aware that Orleans County historically is one of the most economically challenged and lowest income counties in the entire state of Vermont?
Yes.
Did your formula apply a mathematical discount to account for the unique economic depression of rural Coventry, Newport, Vermont, compared to the wealthier aviation hubs that were also in your analysis?
The only location that it would have picked it up in is in the land values.
Okay. Can you show the transportation board and those that are connected with visual capabilities? I'm just on a call here, but could you show the exact line in your administrative record where that rural economic discount is calculated?
I think you're not following what I'm saying. The place we would have picked up on a value for an area that had a lower economic value to it would be in the land rates that come from the municipalities. So if you look at the value of property in Rutland as compared to the value of property in Coventry, your cost per acre is going to pick up that difference. So when our appraisers came up with the rate per municipality, we would have captured that. But we
Thank you.
didn't submit anything that broke out their whole analysis. We submitted the rates they came up with. That's what went to the back.
Okay, let me move on to some other questions, if you would. Are you aware that the Northeast Kingdom International Airport sits directly adjacent to the Casella landfill? You are aware of that.
Yes,
And as an aviation official for VTrans, you know that the landfill is the only operating lined landfill left in the entire state of Vermont, correct?
I am not an expert in that field, so I don't know for sure, but I do know the landfill's right next to the airport.
I encourage you to keep your distance from that particular facility. Continuing my questioning, in standard property valuation, proximity to a massive waste facility introduces what is known as external obsolescence. And that is a reduction in value caused by factors outside the property lines. Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar with different land uses have different
Mr.
impacts.
McFarlane, could you start over with this
Sure,
line of
sure.
questioning?
Sure. Yeah, my
In
question
fact,
was.
Can I suggest that you preface it with an explanation of what the purpose of the question is?
Yes, the landfill proximity to our airport and how this affects the actual value of the land. And I appreciate your patience. I do have reasons for asking these questions.
We would capture any difference in the value according to what the town set in the rates.
In standard property valuation, proximity to a massive waste facility introduces what's known as external obsolescence. Have you ever heard that term before?
No,
Okay.
we don't get that in transportation much.
Yeah, I understand. Again, I encourage you to keep away from the place. Did the state hire a certified appraiser to determine how the smell and the truck traffic and all the environmental stigma of an expanding landfill affects the raw dirt value at the Northeast Kingdom International Airport, or I should say underneath the Northeast Kingdom International Airport?
No,
Okay. And did you not adjust the land value downward for the landfill proximity in your market rate to treat Coventry dirt the same as the dirt at airports with no landfills next to it? Is that correct?
we don't adjust the rate according to something next door to it. We use the municipal rate that's been set by the town for the property.
Right, but you created a market rate, and I'm just wondering if the market rate for us or for Southern Vermont or for Morrisville or I'm just wondering if you adjusted the land value for our leases and considering the landfill proximity in the market rate. Did you do that for other airports that had landfills next to them?
Mr. McFarlane, I'm going to interrupt here. I think the witness's testimony has been that those with those with expertise within V-Trans assess the valuations that a municipality makes upon the value of land in that municipality. And and that fundamental assessment is carried up to another level and becomes part of the equation that V-Trans employs. Are you familiar with the common level of appraisal? It's
I'm
called
not.
CLA.
I'm
It's called
actually not.
CLA.
No,
Okay.
I am not.
Have you ever appealed your property taxes?
Actually, I have not.
Have you ever grieved to the listers?
No, I have not.
Well, you're one of the few Vermonters who hasn't.
I can move along. I only have a few more questions. I realize that I'm taking a lot of time, but this is very important. And again, Mrs. Broussard, I very much appreciate your time and your honesty and forthrightness just to get the answers to some of these questions. You know, the lease, what we call the boilerplate, explicitly states that ground rent adjustments must be based on the value of the unimproved land. Is that your understanding as well? Unimproved land, not all the, you know, the new runway and the extension, everything else. It's unimproved land that we're talking about in the lease. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes.
Okay, good. The private
I'm
hangar
sorry,
owners-
Ms. McFarlane, we're talking about the unimproved land that is subject to the lease, correct?
That is correct. Back in 2019.
Okay, so are all ground leases of the same area? No, they're all different areas. Square footage, correct?
That's
Uh,
correct.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
all right, so, but let's develop this before you go down this avenue of inquiry. If the subject of every ground lease is of a different size, that will
Yeah.
affect the outcome, correct? Right, but
Yeah.
it's also,
I think-
it's also its location on the airport site, is it not?
Listen, the dirt underneath the hangar, 10 hangars down from mine is really no different. And it may be a little further away from the landfill, but it's the same dirt. And
I
again,
understand, but that dirt has not been subject to a landfill. And
Wait,
when I think that when the characterization is unimproved, that means it's unimproved as held by the lessor, unimproved by any improvements the lessee is entitled to make under the lease. It's not unimproved dirt in the town of Coventry. It's unimproved. It's an unimproved site on the lessor's fee-owned premises.
again, I only have a few more questions if I could be allowed to proceed.
Please do.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mrs. Broussard. Almost done. Private hangar owners pay 100% of the cost to clear their plots, pour concrete, and build their structures. That's correct, Mrs. Broussard?
Yes.
Thank you. Between 2008 and 2019, the Federal Aviation Administration paid for roughly 90% of the major runway expansion in Coventry. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you point to a single document in the record and your formula that completely isolates the value of the raw, unpaved dirt from the value of the multi-million-dollar federally funded runway?
The value of the unimproved dirt or land is State Exhibit 2.
And that completely isolates the value of the raw, unimproved dirt from the value of the multi-million-dollar federally funded runway?
Yes, it's the value of land only.
So if your land valuation includes the presence of that new runway, you're essentially charging the tenants a higher rent because the infrastructure that federal taxpayers, not VTrans, largely paid for. Because, throughout this period, the state has argued, well, we have, $20 million, $23 million worth of improvements at the airport. And, those make up better amenities.
We don't
Almost-
charge rent. Let's go ahead.
Almost done. Let's just talk about maintenance a little bit. The lease boilerplate allows for a rent adjustment based on maintenance costs, correct?
Yes,
To legally pass a maintenance cost increase on to tenants at Coventry, you must be able to show what it actually costs to maintain the Coventry Northeast Kingdom International Airport, correct?
yes.
Do you have a line item, audited accounting sheet that is showing the exact maintenance expenses for the Northeast Kingdom International Airport in 2019, completely separate from all of the other airports, Rutland, Morrisville, Middlebury?
Yes, we did. It's in the administrative record. There's examples of it, exhibit 3, but that's from the 24 numbers. We're digging, hang on. VTrans sets up a separate accounting for each airport when we set up what we call expenditure accounts. It targets right into one airport. So every power bill that comes in for Northeast Kingdom gets charged to that airport. Anything that comes in for NAP across the street here goes to that airport. We have staff and their time gets charged to that airport for the activities. We have all the operating costs, whether it's fuel for a loader or blades, sweeper bristles, whatever the maintenance item is. Our accounting system will account for it not only by airport, but by type of expense right down through. And every year at the end of the year, VTrans goes through a full audit as part of the entire state audit. And those audit results are available online too, through the Agency of Administration.
Here's these numbers.
Ms. Broussard, is that exhibit 3?
Yes, the difference is that's 24, but when we did these, somewhere in the
So this is
administrative record
2017.
has the ones that we gave out. This is the sheet that went to the committee. That's the lease right here.
Gotcha. This is expenses versus revenue.
Yep, operating facility, total lease revenue, net operating.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Scott. I don't want to divert from this. I'd like to follow this line. May I ask a question?
Hang on, we're getting the reference to this
This
for
would be
Bruce.
the administrative record, Bait Stamp, VTrans 000116.
Can you say that number again, please?
VTrans 000116, document entitled 2017 Aviation Expenditures versus Revenue. It's a chart that features the Newport Airport here as well as Morrisville, charting the operations costs, facility costs, total expenditures, and then translating to corresponding with lease revenue and then the net operating costs beyond that. This is intended to show a percent of
And there should be multiple years that were given to the VAC when they looked at these rates.
And
Yeah,
this is in 2017.
So we have 2017, 2018, and 2019. And then as part of, in terms of showing fairness and how these rates affected folks, exhibits
We
3 and
understand
4.
why it was offered, but to identify it, we have it in the record then.
We do. We have it as VTrans Administrative Record Bait Stamp document number 000116.
And to clarify,
17 and
One-
118.
correct. And yeah, the bordering pages on there might be instructive as well in terms of this whole dialogue, but those 3 pages specifically for that question.
A couple more questions. Bruce McFarlane continuing, if I may, and then I'll turn it over to Scott or back to the chair, I should say. I'm just looking here, paper document. You mentioned both the Morrisville Airport and our airport, both of which had the increase to 25 cents per square foot. So are you averaging the aviation deficits with regard to maintenance to calculate our rate hikes? I'm just wondering, are you forcing Coventry tenants to pay for operations and maintenance that are happening entirely at different airports? This is where I'm confused.
No, Bruce, we look at what we gave the data to the back on to consider when we look at setting these rates is just specific to your airport. When you look at what happened up there at your airport prior to the investment of federal aviation funds, the costs to maintain that airport were lower. As soon as you expand the length of the runway by 1,000 feet, you add aprons, taxiways, a new SRE building, snow removal equipment, a full-time employee, and a temporary employee or part-time employee, then you obviously increase the cost to maintain all the infrastructure that the feds help construct. That's an expense that's directly to your airport based on the improvements that were made.
Right. I understood. Just two more questions and then maybe a comment. But just want to say the Vermont Supreme Court specifically ruled that your methodology must be transparent. Where is the exact algebraic formula combining local CPI, local dirt value, and itemized Coventry maintenance costs that yield exactly 25%?
I don't believe there's anything in statute or anywhere that says we have to have a specific formula that comes out to a dollar value. Transparent was, as in we presented all the information to the VAC. We walked them through comparable airports. We walked them through land values, and we walked them through the cost to maintain the airports. And then we looked at how do we keep these airports so they're competitive still with those in the area, but yet we get some return on the investment the state of Vermont's making. So the rates that went in weren't to, if we look at the comparisons right now of where we're at with what it's costing us to maintain the airports versus our return, we were in the 12 to 13%. So we're not charging the full amount of the maintenance costs to these airports either. So there is some subjective to this and some evaluation that had to be taken place to figure out how do we have a fair rate, but also balance it with what we're required to do.
Right. So to be absolutely clear, Mrs. Broussard, you cannot produce a mathematical formula that is specific to Orleans County economics, specific to the landfill stigma, and specific to itemized Coventry maintenance receipts that legally calculated out your 25-cent rate. Are you asking the board just to take your word that this is fair?
So we do not have a formula, nor has the state ever had a formula for this. And I'm not asking them just to take my word. I think we've just pointed to the exhibits that show the information and the process that went through before the VAC.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Broussard. I really appreciate your time today. And thank you again. And I look forward to working with you, and I know we all do. And again, we're pleased that you're in your new position with your new staff, particularly the aviators. One other comment, just quickly. It seems to me that AOT wants us, meaning the leaseholders and the pilots that fly their planes, mostly seasonal because of the weather, that we're here to subsidize all the private jets. We have a lot of private jets that can, thankfully, can start utilizing a 5,500-foot runway. I mean, it's just a major change to the area, and it's great. We see a lot of them. There are a lot more coming and going than you're aware of. We see them all the time. We also see a lot of air traffic from Caledonia, from Burlington, from New Jersey, from Boston, and these are training flights, people that come in. So a whole bunch of people come and utilize the airport, and some people say amenities. If you call a long runway an amenity, certainly is if you're a jet and very safe. But it just feels like we're being asked to subsidize all of those other users. There is a lot of maintenance. I get it, and I get the state's tight. They need to find revenue somewhere, but you don't have toll booths on the highways in Vermont, and thankfully we don't have billboards in Vermont. And these airports are important, and they're an important investment for the state. Those jets bring in business, even though it's not enough of.
Mr. McFarland, could I ask you to wrap this up?
I'm done for now. Thank you very much.
And just answer one quick one on that.
Yes, Ms. Broussard.
The state isn't asking anybody to subsidize it, Bruce. That's why we pick up 85% of the maintenance and operations of the airport. And those that have a hangar on the airport are only picking up, I think it ranges 12 to 15%.
Mr. McFarland, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I've lived in Montpelier since 1981, and all my kids were born at Central Vermont Hospital, and I always thought Airport Road was just the name of a road down here, but the Edward F. Knapp Airport is on it. And now it occurs to me that all these years, I've been subsidizing the flying community for having the state maintain these airports to accommodate your hobbies, your interests, your pursuits. Did you ever think of it that way?
I pay taxes too, and a fair amount. So I could argue that we're being double or triply taxed when we're paying for the government to put in the runway extension as well. Actually, one other thing just came up, Mr. Broussard, if with the chairman's permission, I had a couple of notes here that I didn't ask you about. May I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Well,
with a couple of...
Please focus your question. Is it a question, or are you going to testify?
This pertains to something that is in the record that the state.
Is it a question?
Yes, it is a question.
Pose your question, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Broussard, when a new lessee comes and builds a hangar, who's responsible to do the drainage, the excavation, and the paving around that hangar, surrounding the leased hangar space? Who's responsible for that?
In most cases, it's the individual developing the hangar.
Oh, so
The lessee.
you don't.
That would be the lessee.
No, I'm talking about around the hangar beyond the 10-foot or 5-foot buffer. I mean, doesn't the state do the tarmac and the taxiway and do the drainage that's all done, and the Act 2 and all that stuff? I mean, isn't that the responsibility of the state?
In some cases, not in all cases.
Well, in my case, it wasn't back in 2006. And that is why I have a discounted rate of not 12 cents like everybody else at our airport, but 9 cents. And, that's really a discussion for another day, but that's why I have a discounted rate, because I put that money out for the state. And you testified, and in the record, you said that reimbursement was not intended to last forever. I would argue that it was intended
I
to
would
be
object. This is outside of the scope, and this was actually already litigated in the previous iteration of this matter. Mr. McFarland's specific claims he's raising right now.
Mr. McFarland, this doesn't appear relevant to the matter before us today.
I'll withdraw the question and bring it up another time. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
this is Scott. Could we circle back just a bit?
yes,
Thank you. So I just want to make a comment on when you said that you might have objected to paying for rich people's hobbies or flying at airports when you realized that Airport Road was really connected to an airport near where you lived. That's a slippery slope.
Mr. Winick, I said no such thing. I didn't say I was supporting rich people's hobbies. I said I was subsidizing the maintenance and operation of the airport that in fact exists on Airport Road that has very little relevance or pertinence to my life as a taxpayer in Montpelier. It's just not even on my radar. I was not.
Okay, I
You're
did hear the
putting
word.
words in my mouth.
No, I did hear the word hobby, and that raised hackles on my neck. It's like saying if because I'm feeling pretty well during the course of my life, I shouldn't have to pay for the hospital. It goes down that path. And I think we should, as people that are involved with transportation, take a look back at Aviation Day, which took place just a couple of weeks ago, and try to not say things that give the general public the impression that this is a unique club for, special individuals who are taking advantage of the tax and the tax structures in the state. That's one point. That only came up from your comment, so I'm making that. I'd like to circle back, if you'd like, to know in the brief, our appellant's brief to the Supreme Court on page 6 references the printed case for Ms. Broussard's comments during that meeting of December 10th. And so it's in the record if you'd like to go up. I'm not going to drag you all through it, but the question was really clear. It was, is there a direct connection formula between the data that was collected and the final results for the amount of the increase? And Ms. Broussard said there is not a direct connection between the data that was collected and the final results. That's an important point. Clearly, the state is awash in data. The problem is there's not a button that you can press that takes you from the data to a cell that assigns a rate. The court said that, and I think we're still there. I've heard Ms. Broussard tell about all of the way the accounting system is set up, and it sounds great. I mean, how else would you do it? You've got to start somewhere. And to the state's credit, they've got this system plugged in a way that should work, but it wasn't done. And that's where we are now. If it's too hard, make it simpler and let's move on. So awash in data is clearly what's the situation, but the exercise cannot be left to the student. Thank you very much.
I was just seeking clarification as to which brief was referenced. I'm familiar with the concept, so I didn't want to belabor the point. But appellant's brief in this matter isn't 6 pages long, so I wasn't sure. It must have been from a previous matter, but I'm familiar with the
I believe
issue.
Mr. Winick was referring to the brief in front of the Supreme Court. Is that true, Mr. Winick?
It is, and it was in the printed case where the affidavits from Dr. Sims, from me, from Bruce, I believe Dan, and perhaps I think Jen Riccardi also had an affidavit in there. Anyway, there were 4 or 5 affidavits of what was said. So that's what I was referring to before. I just wanted to close the loop. I don't want to belabor it any further.
Thank you. Jeffrey, do you have any redirect for Ms. Broussard?
I don't think at this time, maybe I think we covered the, I don't think I have any specific questions at this time. I think nothing more from Ms. Broussard here.
Do you want to offer that?
Yeah, we would like to formally again move to admit the pre-filed testimony of Trini Broussard and exhibits 1 through 5.
I'm going to ask the plaintiffs if they have any objection to the admission of the pre-trial and direct testimony of Ms. Broussard.
This is Scott. No, I don't.
This is Dan. No, I don't.
Bruce McFarlane, no objection.
Thank you. At the testimony of Ms. Broussard is admitted.
Thank you very much.
I'm also told that V-Trans we need a motion from V-Trans to enter the administrative record into our record.
Yes, we listed on the exhibit list. Wasn't sure if we were going to actually be referencing it, but the fact that it came in here, this was submitted timely with these proceedings. This is the current administrative record with those paid stamp numbers. So we would move to admit the entirety of the administrative record submitted at the beginning of these proceedings.
All right, the V-Trans has moved to admit the entire administrative record. We're inclined to accept it. I suspect that the plaintiffs have no objection.
This is
Can
Scott.
you
No
confirm that,
objections.
please?
This is Scott. No objections.
Dan, no objection.
Terrific, thank you.
Bruce McFarlane, no objection.
Thank you. We'll admit the administrative record into the evidence. Board members, do you have questions of Ms. Broussard?
I have one. Are tie downs offered at airports?
Yes.
And how are those charged in relationship? If it's the same piece of land, how are those meted out square footage wise?
So usually a certain number of them go to the fixed base operator. They use them when they're maintaining aircraft. So it's in their agreement.
Okay.
If there's no fixed base operator at the airport, they're usually there and they're just transient.
Okay,
Transient, that's somebody that might fly in today and fly back out this afternoon.
so they're not
Or
charged.
not unless there's somebody there. It would cost us. They get maybe $2-3 a day to tie down an aircraft. So to pay for an employee to be at the airport
Mhm.
would jack their lease rate up because it would be an operating cost of the airport to collect $2 when somebody flies in. It's just financially not feasible.
I think that's an interesting point. Let me ask you a question. A tie down is on tarmac, is it not? Whereas a ground lease is of the unimproved ground. So the tie down is actually on tarmac rather than dirt.
Okay.
The dirt's.
I agree.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know if there
Yeah,
was.
the tie downs, they're already improved sites.
It's part of the infrastructure that
Right.
V-Trans builds to make the airport usable.
Okay. I don't know if this is relevant, but who determines the makeup and the number of members of VAC?
The governor.
Okay,
The governor has, it's a set number of positions. They're not assigned anything.
okay,
So there is no designated representative per airport, or
okay.
some committees you see, a member of the Chamber of Commerce, a member of the regional planning commissions, but it's not that specific.
Is it the governor or the legislature?
Governor.
Governor. Okay.
This is an advisory council to the Agency of Transportation set up
thank
by
you.
the governor.
I believe that's set by statute.
This one's not. Public transit's by statute.
Oh, right.
Rail and aviation are by executive
By
order.
executive order. Sorry.
Neat.
Yeah.
Where are the skeletons?
I'll catch you later.
It's the
Off the
trouble,
record.
it's the trouble of being around for a while. I don't think there's any more evidence for us to consider today or to have admitted. I think we'll entertain closing statements. And I defer to the parties. To any preference as to who has the first opportunity to present a closing statement? My inclination is to afford that to the plaintiffs, if only because there's 3 potential speakers and V-Trans has 1 closing statement to make. So Let's start with closing statements from the three plaintiffs in our established order, if you would.
All right, this is Scott. Just a quick comment to the board member that asked about the makeup of the VAC. That was core. The comments about the makeup of the VAC were core to what we asked for in our settlement agreements, and it still is, that the VAC could be reconstituted or in a way that was more fair. And that's really one of the issues that's at the heart of this matter. You know, if you want to talk about an old boys network or an old pals club there, that's what you've got. Instead of having a representative from each and every airport, which would give us 12 or 13 members with a sensible view from that airport, and perhaps not somebody that has a commercial interest at that airport like the FBO manager, but someone with a more pedestrian involvement with the airport. And then, of course, the governor could have one or two or three maybe business interests, you know, that are just interested in transportation from a purely business point of view on the same council. That would constitute the same number of people and give us a much better feeling in the field here about what was done and what wasn't in terms of you know, managing the VAC. So that was just one point. Other than that, in summary, I think you can hear from what we've said that it's not an issue of specifically how much. The amount of money, although the increase was hundreds of %, that did rankle us. But to have something that's consistent, that won't shock an owner one day when they get a lease for 25 cents a square foot, and then a day or two later, they get an increase of 50% on that. How can you invest in a community, invest in an airport, and invest in Vermont with that kind of structure? That's the point we're trying to make. And if you look back at our settlement offers, it wasn't about money. We weren't asking for reductions or credit. We're just asking for sensibility between people that live in the state, that, you know, we invested money to build hangars or buy hangars, and we don't like the feeling, and in this case, the fact of being taken advantage of along the way. So I think that's it. I'm going to wrap it up here. I just, after 45, I've been flying for 45 years, and more than 20 of those were in Vermont. I'm both an interested party here, but on a personal level, I sold that hangar, the one that's involved in this dispute. It's gone. My aviation assets are being moved elsewhere. This bureaucracy has proven its intent at this point to my satisfaction, and I'm not going to keep asking. It's become its own punishment, and it's a great place to fly over, but you don't want to land there and buy a hangar, is what I'm going to wrap up with. It's a place where the process has really become its own punishment. But I do thank you for bearing with us. I understand that, you know, you've in a sense got to do this as well. Probably not your favorite way to spend a beautiful spring day, but thank you all, and I'm going to wrap it up.
Mr. Govin.
Yes, I've been the fixed base operator in Newport for 23 years. I've had a lot of good time. I've worked well with the state. I've always have. Sometimes we have disagreements, and that's normal. But I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars being where I am today, and we take care of 55 aircraft. We have a flight school. I feel, you know, by putting a huge investment myself, and I'm feeling I'm getting taxed more on it for being put in Newport the way it is right now. If I weren't there, it'd be another Caledonia. That I'm short of. So I just want to state that invest in your FBOs, invest in your airports as well. that we're there too. It's not a hobby. It's a business like any other business. The cost of maintaining and running an airport is no different than our rail system, our highways. It's infrastructure. You have to invest in it. You can't expect to get a return on everything. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. McFarlane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the board and all within my voice. I'd like to just, I have a closing statement, but I also have a pre-closing statement. And I'll, again, try to be brief, and I'm not known for that, as you now know. I really want to apologize to Mr. Dolgan and to Mrs. Broussard, to the board and all its members, and to Mr. Sokolnik. I think I'm sort of combative and angry, and I'm really sorry that I'm not able to contain that emotion. But as I said, it's my opening statement. This didn't happen in a vacuum. It's not the money. It's that the relationship between the aviators in Vermont and our airport in particular, and I think I can safely speak for those other aviators around the entire state at all the airports, has been a very, very strained relationship, particularly in the 10 years prior to 2019, and the positive recent changes that have happened. I want to stress that. And I'm hopeful, discouraged, but hopeful. And I just want the board to know that in the case of the Northeast Kingdom Airport, our community of aviators that got together to make up the Northeast Kingdom International Airport Committee, we worked so hard. We cared so much. We so wanted to help the economically depressed area of the Northeast Kingdom. We all see the airport as aviators because we have the view from above. We saw ways to bring in potentially commuter air service to Boston, a whole bunch of things that would really make a difference for Vermont. And we, for 10 years after Mr. Ruel's departure, we had no partner. As a matter of fact, they worked against us, and we're all beaten to a pulp. And then so the cherry on the top was getting this increase in 2019. And I got whacked more than anybody else, 160%. Of course I'm angry, but I'm really more angry that I spent all this time as part of a group and a committee, which is pretty much since disbanded, because we just couldn't get anything done. And it wasn't because of us. We got a lot of things done, like the terminal aviation forecast, like the cameras that were promised by the state from the airport. I could go on and on. But we worked so hard, and we're burned out, and we're angry. And that's really the losses for Vermont and the Northeast Kingdom. So anyway, I apologize for my combative or angry tone through part of this today to everybody involved. But I want you to know where it's coming from, and it's coming from the heart. Now, my official closing statement. Members of the board and the state will shortly rest its case, and yet the administrative record remains just as empty and broken as it was when the Supreme Court remanded it. Under cross-examination, VTrans officials admitted they did not apply geographic location discount for Coventry. They admitted they did not account for the economic impact of the state's largest operating landfill sitting right outside our hangar doors. Most shockingly, they admitted they cannot prove to you with a single line item receipt showing a specific maintenance cost of the Northeast Kingdom facility separate from busier airports like Morrisville nearby. VTrans expects this board to bail them out, and it's expected that for decades, of their own internal administrative neglect by rubber stamping a guessed regional average that defies our local reality. Supreme Court was clear. A rate is not fair and reasonable simply because an agency says it is. The formula is not transparent. It is their legal arbitrary. VTrans failed to meet, I should say, it is legally arbitrary that VTrans failed to meet its burden of proof. We respectfully request that this board denies the 25-cent rate hike and order V-Trans to recalculate ground lease rents to true localized verified metrics. And I also respectfully, and I do mean respectfully, request that the board requires strict compliance with applicable law, including the Vermont statutes annotated and the Vermont rules of evidence, and hold all parties to their burden of proof through and only consider admissible evidence in your deliberations. Thank you all very, very much. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Mr. Sokol.
Thank you. Thank you all. The Supreme Court remanded this matter because the prior proceedings admittedly lacked a sufficiently developed documentary evidentiary explanation of how AOT arrived at the 2019 lease rates, and certain due process opportunities for plaintiffs in order in terms of cross-examination of testimony presented. But this hearing clearly addressed that concern directly. The evidence now before the board establishes a robust, clear, and understandable record of the agency's methodology and reasoning. Testimony exhibits provide an agency record sufficient to demonstrate that AOT considered the factors expressly permitted under leases by the Supreme Court and the leases themselves, the CPIU trends, market value, and airport maintenance and operational costs. The evidence further showed that AOT reviewed comparator airports, consulted with the VAC, discussed the methodology publicly, and considered airport-specific operational realities before implementing the rates. The board also heard evidence concerning a later stakeholder and subcommittee review process from Mr. Dolgan. That testimony is significant because it demonstrates that additional review of the rates and alternative methodologies ultimately confirm the reasonableness of AOT's overall approach rather than undermining it. In fact, some of the alternative methodologies proposed, reviewed during that process, shown on page 3 of Exhibit A, produced rates comparable to or higher than the rates ultimately adopted by the agency. This remand was not about proving AOT had the perfect algebraic formula. The question before the board is whether the resulting rates were grounded in identifiable, rational and permissible considerations, and whether the rates fall within a fair and reasonable range under 19 BSA 5D6. The evidentiary record now answers those questions. For those reasons, AOT respectfully requests that the board conclude that the remanded evidentiary record sufficiently explains agency's methodology and the challenged lease rates are determined to be fair under 19 BSA 5D6. Thank you all.
Anything further? We're at that phrase in a contested case where both parties, if there's nothing further, will be asked to rest their cases. V-Trans?
AOT rests.
Yes. Plaintiffs, do you rest your case?
We do. This is Scott.
This is Dan. Yes, we do.
We do. Bruce McFarlane.
Thank you, everyone. Then hearing that both parties have rested, then we will close today's hearing. Thank everyone for your participation, your patience, your good nature, your observations, and wish you Godspeed. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
The hearing is closed.
Go have.
Go Habs. He's rooting for a Canadian.
The hearing is closed. We still have a meeting that's open.
We do indeed have.
So
Mr. McFarland, you don't need to stick on if you don't want to.
So what we'll do is we'll call a brief recess to the meeting to allow our
Yes.
V-Trans friends to
You're
back up.
kicking us out. is what you're saying.
Come on,
Wait.
get out.
It's your building.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Could you be sure to shut the refrigerator door?